Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. If you've never been an Audible customer and want to see what they offer, just go to www.audibletrial.com/Excelsior Journeys and browse the unmatched selection of audio programs. Download a title for free and start listening. It's that easy. Why Audible? Audible content includes an unmatched selection of audiobooks, original audio shows, news, comedy, and more from the leading audiobook publishers, broadcasters, and entertainers. And with this free 30-day trial, you'll have your pick of it all. You can hear books of all genres narrated by Jim Dale, Stephen Fry, Will Patton, Alex Hyde White, Jeff Brick, Neil Shaw, William Demerit, and even a few by me, George Sirois. So go to www.audibletrial.com/Excelsior Journeys and start your own 30-day journey with Audible today.
Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of the award-winning podcast Entrepreneurs on Fire, and you're listening to the Excelsior Journeys with George Sirois. Prepare to ignite.
Is there a burning desire within to share your creativity with the rest of the world? Do you insist on pursuing your passion by any means necessary? Then you are on an Excelsior journey, and you are not alone. Welcome back to Excelsior Journeys. My name is George Sirois. Thank you so much for being here. When it comes to a life's journey, everyone has their own definition of success. But when you are with a bunch of writers, as I am right now over at PennCon for 2019, I would say a majority of them will define having success as having the ability to live off of your writing full time without having another job to basically subsidize your work, your life, etc. And there are very few authors that are in the indie to traditional level that can really say that. Thankfully, I just happen to be with someone who has realized that dream and is somebody who continues to go on his own journey of success. And it's a real thrill to welcome to the show Eric R. Asher. Eric, how are you today?
Excellent. Thanks for having me.
And thank you so much for being here. You've always been kind of like a model of success that I can definitely only speak for myself, but I can say that I want to have that. I want to have that moment. I want to be able to walk away from the full-time job and say, I am pursuing my passion full-time. This is what I am going to do from here on out. So, before we get to the beginning and get you all caught up with the journey, how has that been going so far?
It's been excellent. I finally resigned from the day job in February, so we're coming up on 7 months now. Wow. So yeah.
and it's been good. Like there's no dip or anything. It's all just been.
No, it's been great. It's it takes some adjusting to get used to it because. Yeah. You're used to, working your 8-hour shift at the day job and then coming home and doing your writing stuff, and suddenly you don't have to do that anymore. So you get to reallocate all that time, and it's pretty awesome.
That is really cool. That is great. So with all that extra time, you must have something coming up in the queue now. Do you?
I do. I've been working on the Books of the Dead novellas, which is continuing my Vesic series.
Yes.
Basically, instead of doing full-length installments a couple times a year, I'm doing a novella that's from a different character's viewpoint every month for like the next 12 months. So
really?
It should be interesting.
So it's each character is a different character.
Yep.
Or like each novella.
Yep. Different character's point of view in each one.
Wow, that's very cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Now, are they all like different, obviously like different points in this whole series, right?
It is actually continuing on from right where book 8 left off.
Oh.
So yeah, it's literally like continuing the main story arc. It's an interesting thing to manage.
It's kind of like you're building up your own MCU almost.
Yeah, right.
Very nice. Very, very cool. So let's so with that in mind, let's go back to what I call the lightning bolt moment. What was it way back when that made you decide, this is what I am going to do, this is the path I'm going to follow, I am going to be a writer? Where did that start?
I started having ideas about it probably back in 2006.
Yeah.
Just because I realized I liked making stuff up and I really wanted to write a story. So I dabbled with some short stories, eventually wrote like a full-length novel that was completely horrible, will never see the light of day. It's in a drawer in the basement.
Yeah.
But I guess in 2009 I had actually had a really vivid nightmare, and that triggered me to write a short story that eventually became the first book in the Vesic series.
Really?
So yeah, it was weird.
Was it just like odd imagery or something, or was there like an actual character that you got to?
No, it was like
to see?
character. It was like all the original characters. I mean, the whole thing was just like
wow.
there.
So you
Very
basically
weird.
got to see the world around around you. That's really cool.
Yeah. So it was just like one scene out of that world, and then I wrote that scene up, and I was like, wow, that was actually fun. So I kept writing it, and that short story grew into the 8 books that it is now.
Wow.
So yeah.
That is very cool. That is so like that. That just blows my mind. So like having that sort of start and then just being able to just blow it up the way you did. So you just started, like you said, you just started building one scene after another until it became a novel. Was that the plan?
Very much. Well, plan. I mean, in the beginning, I didn't really know what I was doing, so.
Yeah.
Loosely, I guess you could call it a plan, but it was more like, hey, this is fun. I'm going to keep doing this.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So tell us about Vesic. What was it that, that got you really into that?
I've always liked necromancer characters and weird kind of off-the-wall powers and stuff, so that worked really well for me, and that it fit in with my sense of humor, too, because it's like, you've got a character that does not see death the way the rest of the world really would, because he's a necromancer.
Yeah.
And so you can play off of that a lot with like some oddball humor, and that always really appealed to me.
Sort of like Jim Butcher style.
Yeah,
kind of thing. Yeah.
Definitely.
Nice.
I actually was just on a panel with Jim at Dragon Con, and he was.
This is one of the things I truly love about about being a part of the writer community. You never know who you're going to wind up paneling with. Because, I mean, like, you and I did, a random panel last year over at PenCon. We did the Flash Fiction panel.
Yep.
And, and I want to thank you for recruiting me for that because it was a lot of fun.
It's always a disaster.
Oh, yeah.
In the best way.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, I'll never look at, some of those things the same way again.
Yeah, for sure.
Trying to remember what it was was it corn nuts? Is that what we were like?
Cheetos.
Cheetos.
That was Flaming Hot Cheetos.
Flaming Hot Cheetos, yes. Yeah, that was the... Yeah.
Oh, EJ.
So odd, but at the same time, it was a blast, and that's one of the great things that you experience when you go to these kinds of conventions. And then you being able to sit at a panel with Jim Butcher. Yeah. What was that experience like? Just to kind of push a little bit forward into that.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was. Anytime you panel with authors that you really look up to, it's always fun, unless they're a jerk, which does happen occasionally, but we don't talk about those people.
No.
But Jim's actually really cool. Some of the other authors I got to see this year were like Patricia Briggs and
nice.
Tim Powers. And like Tim, he wrote the Anubis Gates that kind of helped define the steampunk genre, which one of my most successful series is a steampunk story. So it was kind of like, he's like the grandfather of the genre here, and Tim's awesome. He's a really nice guy.
It's like getting to, it's like doing a zombie story and then getting to meet Romero and he's still with us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's weird, but fun.
Yeah. So so you have that first book, you have Vesic, you're getting into the character, you're having a lot of fun with him. You finish that first book. What's your next step? What did you do with that then?
I wrote the next 3 books. Before I did anything.
Before you published any of them?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
You just got like just like I just have to keep on churning out?
I wrote the first couple in 2009, 2010, and then I didn't actually even publish the first one until 2013.
Really?
So yeah. So I was able to like release them fairly regularly for a few years because I've written ahead. So it makes it much easier to release more regularly if you can work ahead.
That's that's smart. That's a good. It's one thing. Fellow authors out there, that's one thing to keep in mind. And I'm talking to a success story here, so he knows what he's talking about. So so how did you do it then? So you just released book 1 in 2013, then book 2 in 2014?
No, it was the first 2 were in 13, 3 and 4 were in 14.
Okay. Would you do it like 6 months apart or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Exactly. And then I think it pretty much dropped to 1 every 8 months or so after that.
Oh, 1 every 8 months. You're slacking.
And then I think once the 6th or 7th one came out, it's pretty much just one a year.
Wow.
Because fitting it around my day job at the time was significantly problematic.
Yeah. So it releases in 2013. What was the response? What was the initial response that you got?
It was good. I mean, it was slow, but there was like a regular readership, and there was a lot of people who were like, "Hey, I really enjoy this. This is a great entry in the urban fantasy genre." And I was like, "Okay, that's awesome."
Yeah.
So, and it just like each release would do a little bit better, and so it just kind of built on itself organically. Because at the time, I knew exactly nothing about marketing and building email lists and Facebook ads and all that, zero. So you were going into a popular genre though. Urban fantasy is pretty popular, wouldn't you say? It really is, but it kind of depends on who you talk to. Like if you talk to most traditional agents right now, they'll tell you that they're not shopping for urban fantasy. Like a lot of them are like, "Oh, that genre's kind of dead." Except some of them will be shopping for like supernatural suspense, which is kind of what urban fantasy has evolved into. Yeah. So it depends on who you ask.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not as big as like its high point probably back in the mid 2000s. Yeah.
But it seems like if you have the fans, you have them. Like you have them. You have your claws really sink pretty deep in there.
They seem to like long series for sure.
Excellent.
Yeah. So that's Thank you.
Yeah. So book 1 comes out, and then book 2, and then book 3, and were you really starting to see like a really good return in that?
So by book 3 I was profitable at least. Probably I didn't see the biggest breakthrough until I started doing audiobooks. And then audiobooks were a big tipping point for me because it was like, wow, this is going to be insanely expensive, but look at all the work that this narrator has done. And what happened is I actually lucked into William DeFries because he auditioned for my first audiobook that I posted on ACX.
Really?
And just randomly, and I was paying a rate that he was willing to work with, and we started working together, and he's amazing. So
that you actually already answered my other question. Then did you do a royalty share first, or did you go ahead and pay outright?
I a lot of times am willing to take a risk if I think there will be a bigger reward. Yeah. So especially with audiobooks, I'm like, this is growing. It's growing explosively. Yes. And like, if I don't pay up front, I'm going to end up cutting my royalty in half, which could hinder some of my marketing budgets. Yeah. So I took the gamble, and I think by the time the second book released, it was in the black already. So excellent. That was really good.
Excellent. Yeah, and speaking as an audiobook narrator myself, it is something that you really are taking a big risk by doing a royalty share, right? Because for all you know, you could be working a month or so on this particular book, and then when it comes out and the author doesn't do anything to sell it, then it's just like, well, now what? So speaking as that, you obviously, I mean, it really is mutually beneficial for the narrator more to get paid out front. Yeah. Because they get the money that they made by doing what they're here to do. And at the same time, you're going to be pushing the book even more so to make up your investment. Right. So, it's always that sort of thing, like whenever you put money down, that always seems to, it's something that you take care of more rather than something that you just got for free.
Right.
Which is pretty much what a royalty share is.
Right.
It's just like, oh, you pay no money up front, but then you'll get money afterwards. But you're basically just like, the mindset is, I just got an audiobook for free.
And that is the mindset a lot of people take, and you can see why some narrators do not want to engage with that anymore without some kind of guarantee of what's going to happen.
Right.
And there is that royalty share plus that they're doing now, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
It's like you give them a smaller amount up front and then split the royalties on the back, and it's like,
that's not bad.
Yeah.
It's just, again, speaking as a narrator, got to get something for that work that they're putting in.
That's a lot of time for you to put in.
Mm-hmm. It is, yeah. But enough about me though. We're so the audiobooks are coming out now. For the Vesic series, you've been able to stick with that same narrator the whole time.
Yes, William's been doing the Vesic series since the first one, and I will continue to bribe him to keep working with me until one of us is dead.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just the best.
So you have that going on, and then you also mentioned Steamborn, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Steamborn.
So what happens? What was the impetus for that? What got you really into that?
So Steamborn is one of those books that it's kind of styled after a book that I always would have wanted to read when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So it's kind of influenced by, if you're familiar with Hayao Miyazaki's Nausicaa, The Valley of the Wind. It's an old anime, and it had like giant bugs that they ride around on, and I loved it as a kid. Just loved it. So I was like, I kind of want to take that concept and do something else with it. So I did like a dystopian steampunk adventure where like a lot of the wildlife has been killed off, but bugs thrived.
Oh,
and
wow.
the oxygen content of the world has increased, so they're able to get like enormous.
Yeah.
So a lot of like pack animals are replaced by giant pill bugs and things like that.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's a lot of fun. I loved it, and that was another one that really took off after I had the audiobook done. And that was done with Saskia Marleveld, which she's one of my favorite narrators like in the freaking world. So getting to work with her was like, because she's done some really great Star Wars books. She's worked with Nora Roberts. And one of my favorite random facts about her is she was the voice of Officer Jenny on Pokemon for a while.
Really?
Yeah, she's really cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Actually, William DeFries was the first voice of Bob the Builder in the U.S.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So when you hear all that language that Vesic's throwing out, that's Bob.
Can we build it? Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic. So Steamborn itself, like, where does that fit in the order of your series? Were you still like working on Vesic, and then that when Steamborn started?
I was.
Yeah.
I actually Steamborn I wrote really fast.
Yeah.
I wrote the entire trilogy in about 6 months.
Wow.
And
that's still with the full-time job.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was. I would work 8-hour days. I would come home and write for 6 hours, every day for 6 months.
And there was no tension or anything in the house or anything for that, or like.
Nah, there was just a lot of bourbon in the house.
There you
go. Much to my editor's dismay.
It's like you can just see like where like all of a sudden it's like, why is the misspelled?
Exactly. There's a lot of TEH in here.
Yeah. That's kind of when it hit.
Yeah.
So so Steamborn itself, like that's just one trilogy, or do you have more stories in mind?
So it was structured to just be the initial trilogy, but I left certain plot arcs open in case it did well, that we could come back to the series and do more with it.
Nice.
So it actually is now my most successful series, so I am going to come back to it, which I'm very excited about, because there are a lot more stories I can tell in that world.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a lot of fun. It's probably going to be about 7 more books when all is said and done.
Really?
Yeah.
7 more?
Mm-hmm.
Do you plan to do like a Lucas kind of thing and tell like a prequel or anything, or just?
Yeah, I think I am going to do that, but that'll probably just be one of the books.
Yeah.
So there will probably be a 1-book prequel, and then there will be like 2 more trilogies at the end. Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah. It's kind of like with George R.R. Martin. He's got like 5 books. Everyone's waiting for the 6th one. And he's like, I'm going to tell this story first. I'm just like, nah! So tell us a little bit about Steamborn. Where what was it that that really? I mean, you already spoke about what inspired you.
Yeah.
But what's the main premise for that one? Like, what's the main character?
So Steamborn's kind of a reimagining if the world sort of ended during the Industrial Revolution and then was rebuilt on steam power.
Oh wow.
And it's not exactly our world during the Industrial Revolution, but there's like some nods back to that time, and it's not truly Victorian.
Right.
So a lot of people are like, oh, it's not really steampunk if it's not Victorian, but it's still steampunk.
Yeah.
It's I'll argue that one.
Yeah.
But so that was a lot of fun, and it was just a couple teenagers going on like a grand adventure in this like war-torn area, and it's.
So you would classify that one as young adult?
Yeah.
Then, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is. Yeah.
So that one's young adult, and Vesic series is definitely sci-fi.
Definitely not
Sci-fi urban fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with all of this, like in mind, you have like all of this product, really. Like you have all this great content that's out there, and it's doing so well. And one of the things that I've consistently seen you doing, both on social media and in real time, is hitting the con circuit.
Yeah.
So when did you get started? What was your first convention experience like?
My first convention was back in 2014.
Yeah.
And it was a little convention in Oklahoma called Red Dirt Boco. Mm-hmm. And it was still, to this day, one of the best conventions I ever went to.
Really?
Yeah, I met, like, for the first time there, I met, like, I want to say Paige Weaver, Colleen Hoover, Taryn Fisher, Jamie McGuire, just so many big names, and then me. And, like, one or two other people. That were, and it's like...
Sort of like one of these things is not like the other?
Yeah, exactly. And it's... But that really introduced me to the idea of doing more romance-based conventions.
Really?
And being like the oddball at these romance-based conventions.
So that you stick out more.
Yeah.
Oh, that's genius.
We make jokes out of it. Murphy Ray does a lot of my graphic design and stuff. And she made me a banner for Book Bonanza this year. That, like, at the top of it, it said necromancing, not neck romancing. And I was like, this is brilliant. This is going to be hilarious. There were so many people that stopped at my table just because of that sign.
Oh, that's
They're
brilliant.
Like, tell me about that.
Yeah. Do you have that with you here?
Yeah,
Nice.
I'll have it set up later.
Smart.
Yeah, it's fun to play around with. But there's a huge crossover in readership between paranormal romance and urban fantasy. I mean, they're really sister genres. I mean, they're so tight together.
Yeah.
And so there's a great readership that kind of crosses over.
Yeah. So you're out there, you're at the conventions and everything, and then all of a sudden PennCon comes here to St. Louis.
Yep.
Now, this is only my third time, but it's been here like a few years before that. I think this is number 6?
This is the 6th year. Yeah.
6. Okay. So 3 years first, and then I started here. Now, were you at all 6 now?
Yep.
So you were there at the beginning.
Yeah.
How'd you get in touch with Rick and Amy?
So Rick and Amy, I actually met originally through PennCon, at the first one.
Okay.
But it was actually another author, Vicki Green, who told me about PennCon after she mentioned Red Dirt Boco. So it was just like mutual friends, and she's like, hey, you should go to this one. And also, there's one going to St. Louis. Don't you live there? And I hadn't heard about PennCon until then, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll sign up for that. That sounds awesome."
Absolutely, because it also kind of like it's also one thing that I've noticed is that it's very much like that that first one you went to, where you were sticking out because you were in the minority.
Right.
Like it's this place is dominated by female authors, and it's all well and good and everything. So that way, both of us stick out a lot more. So that's always a good thing. And I've noticed that, like, even more male authors are joining the fray as well.
Yeah, it's there's a bigger mix of genres now. I think towards the beginning there was a much heavier emphasis on romance, and now everyone's kind of Even people who traditionally mainly wrote romance have branched out into the other genres, and a lot of people that traditionally just wrote fantasy have now branched out into romance. So you have a huge amount of crossover, a huge amount of possibility for cross promoting each other, and that's really nice.
Yeah, that's really cool. So now, with all said and done, like you're at your 6th Pen Con right now. I've also seen you at like other conventions and everything. What are some of your what are some conventions that you would recommend, like annual conventions?
The ones that I always go to, there's a Coastal Magic down in Daytona Beach. That's a really nice one. It's a smaller one. It's usually about 300 attendees, I think.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful. It's like literally right on the beach, and you do panels all weekend. There's educational workshops for the authors. There's entertaining panels for the readers. It's really cool.
That's great.
Another one is Once Upon a Book.
I really want to go to that one.
Yeah, it's run by Stacy Rourke.
Yeah,
and she's doing that one in Frankenmuth, Michigan. I'm actually the keynote for her next year.
Really?
For that one, yeah. So that should be cool.
Now I'm really glad that I was able to get some time with you here.
And what's the other one? Well, Dragon Con, of course, which is just Dragon Con is chaos. It's 85,000 of your closest friends.
Wow. 85,000. So that's like basically like the next best thing to going to Comic-Con in San Diego.
Yeah, it's like the third or fourth largest.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I've heard nothing but like great things about that too.
Yeah.
I know you've you're befriended R.R. Verdi. Through all of this as well.
I know Ronnie.
Yeah, and who was also a guest on the show. So
he's awesome.
Oh yeah. Yep. Hey Ronnie, if you're listening,
finish your book, Ronnie.
There you go. Now, granted, this is going to be out in October, so Ronnie, I really hope you finished. So with all of this, what are you yearning for next? Like, what's the next hill you want to climb?
Just keep putting good content out. I mean, I really want to get more of those Steamborn books out, and I'm looking forward to finishing this Books of the Dead project for the Vesic series.
Yeah.
I'm writing the 7th one already, and the first one hasn't come out yet.
Nice.
Oh
man!
I'm working ahead.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, you've already got to figure it out, your own business model. Like, this works.
Yeah.
Why not keep doing it?
Yeah.
And that's fantastic. Especially considering that, like you said, this past February, you got to walk away from the job and actually make this the job.
Yes.
So
I definitely want to keep it that way.
Yes.
So I have to sell things in order to keep it that way.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, this has just been fantastic. So what kind of tips do you have for authors that want to be where you are right now?
Probably mainly get into audiobooks. Like, that's huge. And don't necessarily listen to people when they tell you certain marketing things don't work. Like, try it for yourself, because some things will work for you that won't work for them, and vice versa.
Right.
Like, you might have people, like I teach marketing workshops sometimes, and I'll tell people, like, the disclaimer here is this is what worked for me. That doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
Right.
Because I've had people tell me exactly how they did something, and then I try that. It doesn't work at all for me.
Gotcha.
It might be my book covers don't connect with that audience, or the blurb wasn't quite right for them.
Right.
You just don't know. But that's why you always want to test and test some more, and then test some more.
Excellent. Excellent. And where can listeners find you?
You can find me pretty much on any social media platform at /Eric R. Asher. And then you can find me on my website, which is ericarasher.com.
Excellent. Excellent. See, readers, and writers, it is possible to break out of the 9-to-5 rut and get yourself into writing for yourself full time. And I'm really thrilled that I was able to actually speak with Eric about this, about his journey. I hope it was just as entertaining and thrilling as for you as it was for me. And for Eric Asher, this is George Sirois saying to all of you, ever upward. I'll see you next week.